Is it down to the cast of characters who are central to Indian politics at this moment, or do you think this is part of a larger global trend? If you see now the Republican versus Democrat arguments in the US, those are more bitter than they've been in the past. The kind of magnanimity you are seeking here can't be seen in the US
I can assure you that our politicians are neither emulating or inspired by what is happening in America. This is an indigenous issue of the manner in which political debate has deteriorated.
Is political discourse getting shriller globally, or is it down to the cast of characters central to Indian politics right now?
While I fundamentally agree with Pavanji that in India it's particularly at a low stage and getting lower, I think there is some truth to what you're also saying. Look, in the past, everything didn't have to be that 1 minute reel. It must go viral on Instagram, and Instagram will not take anything which is more than 59 seconds, right? So every insult has to be particularly piercing, and particularly damaging for it to become viral. This entire technologically enabled, a diatribe, so to speak, has taken us to a whole new low. However, I do feel, I'm an optimist inherently, I do feel that this is, we forget, and we were talking about culture a little while ago, we are going through a Samudra Manthan moment in Indian politics, right? We forget that in Samudra Manthan, in our, text, first what came out was poison. It was the wish that, Shivji had to hold in his neck, right? Otherwise it would destroy the three worlds. So some of the poison is coming out. I'm an optimist. I believe we will come to a place through all of this where there will be a lot of good things.
The opposition can allege that one of the reasons the BJP is as touchy as it is about this issue is because you are concerned that this tagline might stick on the Prime Minister. And therefore you want to push it off, you want to ward it off. You don't want panauti to become what Pappu became for Rahul Gandhi.
On the contrary, it is very worrisome that the so-called secular liberal parties of this country, who pride themselves in progressive thoughts, are today consumed with superstition and sorcery. If at all, they have to call somebody panauti just because, the Honorable Prime Minister visited the stadium on the day that India was playing the finals. What would they call India's first Prime Minister whose horrible miscalculation resulted in India's only war defeat? So I think, there are serious questions the Congress needs to introspect. But today, fact is, if you travel across the country, we have been in power for the last 9.5 years. There is no anger against the BJP. The anger is against the Congress party for misleading the nation. They don't seem to be updated on data. They're talking about price rise. Today, the retail inflation is less than 5%. Today they are talking about unemployment. The latest unemployment data says that unemployment is at its 4-year low, whether it is CMIE data or the State Bank of India report. On the contrary, the highest unemployment is in states like Rajasthan, 28%. So I think, the opposition is completely flustered, and every time they see that there is no road ahead, they end up bashing the Prime Minister, which is a sign of giving away.
No, but look at the core of what Rahul Gandhi is saying, Adil. We're at the sets of Sahitya Aaj Tak. Now, if God forbid something were to go wrong, Tuhin can't say that Adil is the panauti, which is why it went wrong. I mean, the team played a match, they lost the match, they lost to a better team. And the Prime Minister's presence, or anybody's presence or absence, has nothing to do with the end outcome. This is like cricket fans in their enthusiasm saying, oh, the moment I went to eat something to eat something or go around the corner, wicket gir gayi, chakal. You're encouraging very juvenile behavior, as Pavan Verma said. Why are you doing this?
Please consider the state of affairs in which we are today. You have a ruling dispensation which wants an opposition mukt Bharat. You have a ruling dispensation which demonstrates an authoritarian streak. You have a leader who believes in I, me, myself. And I am surprised and perhaps quite shocked. Where does my friend Mr. Sinha gets his data from? Today, our Indian GDP debt has trebled over the past 9 years. Today, price of petrol has touched 100. Today, unemployment, according to the CMI, is almost 10%. Today, the poverty figures have worsened. So therefore, where does the BJP get these figures from? Please understand, Mr. Kanwal, today, Rahul Gandhi's entire campaign has been on price rise, on unemployment, and the BJP's consistent effort to weaken the federal structure. You want to pull out one statement and have a debate? We have no objection to that. We will join that debate and demolish it by saying that the entire onus cannot be placed on our shoulders. The same, if it is par for course for the BJP, then it is par for course for us.
You are objecting to the election commission being called an agent or an aid of the government. But the EC, frankly, doesn't seem to get quite as touchy when BJP leaders say all kinds of things.
Travel to village, a very spurned word. It's not a normal word to be spoken. You know, as English speaking or people from English medium, we can just use panauti very dismissively. But the moment you travel to the rural belt and to talk to Hindi speaking people, panauti is not a normal
No, but
word.
when
It's a
your
very
leaders call a
despicable
particular community, people belonging to a particular religion, in a very derogatory fashion, the BJP doesn't seem to take much
We have
action
taken
against
action.
it.
One
Just-
spokesperson,
No,
is
I want
already
to make a
suffering. So
point.
you have seen that.
You see,
in a very
I want to make a
equal
point.
person, not in a very significant fashion.
I think we are the only party that has walked the talk. The person who instigated our spokesperson, Tasneem Rahmani, is enjoying, but our spokesperson is suffering.
Rahul, let me make one thing clear. You see, I have already talked about the lowered level of political discourse. But to link the outcome of a World Cup match, until then we won every match. You give credit to Mr. Modi if that is the link you want to establish, that he is the Prime Minister. I think it's such a shallow level of finger pointing that it doesn't do the Congress any credit. Like some of the language used by the BJP does it no credit. Having said that, I think there is also an increased level of frustration in the opposition. I mean, I do believe that there has been a misuse of institutions. At election time, the ED, CBI and other agencies seem to target the opposition. And those accused in the BJP famously have a convenient washing machine. So at some point the opposition feels, what is the way for us to respond? I give you another example. In Parliament, a member of the BJP stood up and used language against another member of another community, a member of Parliament, which in my view, and I've been a parliamentarian, was absolutely shocking. His case was not referred to the Privileges Committee. He was not even suspended. He was given a warning. And here you have another case of the leader of opposition of the Congress in the Lok Sabha, of whose debating skills I'm not a great admirer. However, he is protesting the distribution of the constitution in Parliament, which omits a certain amendment that has been made to it. He's suspended. Another member of the opposition is suspended indefinitely and has to seek, I think in unprecedented manner, the intervention of the Supreme Court. But if you see the current Modi cabinet, and I am willing to be corrected if my facts are wrong, 42% of the cabinet ministers have cases as per their own affidavits for the election commission of criminal charges, and some of them are quite serious. They are abduction, dacoity, cheating and attempt to murder. But what investigations have followed in their case?
Hindal, this sense that the investigative agencies or institutions seem to be leaning in to support the government, do you think this could potentially become an election issue? Not so much that something that people discuss, but just in a subterranean fashion, something that voters seem to think is just not fair. The umpire is not playing the role of a fair umpire.
So I have a broader thought on this, and it's not so much what people inside the country think. India also faces significant challenges, as all rising powers will face significant challenges. There are mischievous forces trying to derail India's rise. And part of that is, and all of this has been, my friend Sanjeev Sanyal did detailed research papers on this. Part of this is to trigger this entire conversation that somehow democracy is not really authentic in India, right? And this has been tried in many ways. Any question mark on institutions then becomes part of that conversation. And that conversation is not a good conversation in any way. And that conversation is to be avoided. So therefore, institutional integrity at this juncture is specifically very important for us.
Just to carry forward his point, since we're talking about institutions, I think it is beyond any pale of doubt, Kanwal Saab, how the ED, the CBI and the income tax is being misused, and especially in the context of these elections. You have raids happening in the middle of the campaign. Just yesterday, the Rajasthan High Court has quashed ED summons against one of our candidates from Barmer, who was summoned by the ED to come and join the investigation in the middle of the campaign. So therefore, what you're noticing is that all these investigative agencies, and unfortunately even the ECI, is being used to pressurize and arm twist
It's not
the
even
opposition.
done.